Hey y'all, Danny Marks here, and I wanted to make a response video to the books for boys, about boys, by boys, and I'm not so much interested in the idea that that these boy books have to be written by boys, by guys. It just that doesn't interest me as much as something that came out of Andrew Smith's commentary about the subject, wherein he said that the publishers push specific books. And I think that as an issue, as something I've seen watching YouTube videos and looking at book blogs and things like that, particularly YA book blogs, as I get my YA ready, and it's at the agent, cross your fingers. Something that I've noticed is that it is very much the same stuff. You're seeing the same stuff over and over again, and I think that the question is why, what causes the bandwagoning? How is it that everyone loves Fallen, or everyone loves Hush Hush? It's because those books were pushed. I didn't understand this before I became a writer. I didn't understand that certain things could be manipulated, and that the public is manipulated by the publishers, and not necessarily in a bad way. This is just how it's kind of always been, but you don't really know the sort of backstory of it. When a book comes into a publishing house, and sometimes it comes in through an agent, and sometimes it comes in through what's called a slush pile, and that's just like rooms full of manuscripts. And they'll send in a group of editors, and they'll round table and go through stuff, read the first couple pages, toss it in the trash, that kind of thing, send letters. But when a book comes in that they like, or that they think that they can work with the author, get it to a place where they can make money off of it. It's not just the editor and the author that make that decision. There are large groups of people. There's a marketing department, there's a sales department, there's a cover art department. All of these departments have to come together to say, we can make this book a hit, or we can just get this book out there. There's varying levels of what a publisher is willing to do to get a book, to make a book a hit. Varying levels. And so certain books are pushed by the pubs. And I think you find that they follow a trend. We had the Fallen Angel trend. And I'm not saying that those books are not necessarily as good as other books that weren't pushed, because they can be just as great. But the publisher can't push every book in the same way. So when you've got every blogger talking about a single book, and I'm kind of picking on, I don't know if I'm picking on Fallen or this Fallen Angel trend, which is it's starting to pull back. I think that the last big book we've been talking about is, what is it? Unearthly, the Cynthia Handbook. And I haven't heard of any more coming. So it's one of those things where it's, we hit these markers and then it kind of stops. I think that particularly, and this is just an aside, if you're a writer and you're looking at what is going to sell, don't look at the bookshelves, because what's already out there or what you've heard is coming out is not something they're looking for anymore, which is kind of a hard lesson. And I see it a lot in my writers group. People just kind of don't really get that these things have specific life cycles, and so zombies were really big and now they're kind of waning, but that stuff was sold a couple of years ago. If a book comes out now, it was written 3 years ago, it was bought 2 years ago, it took them that long to edit it and get it on the shelves. That's just how it is. So anyway, I think that as bloggers and reviewers and things like that, if you want to take a sort of a social stance on giving equal time to diversity and gender and things like that on your blogs, it's going to take a lot more effort than picking up whatever the publisher sends you in the mail. It's just going to be much more concerted on your part, I think, and much more research oriented. I did pull a list of books up. Some I've read, some I'm in the process of reading, and some I am just aware of from other people and things like that. But these are books that have boy protagonists and let's see, are probably not, you know what, none of them are all that recent except for Marcello in the Real World by Francisco X. Stork. So I'm going to have them listed here, but I'll just read them off. London Calling by Edward Bloor was a really sort of interesting time travel historical kind of thing. Is set during the London Blitz, and I really enjoyed that one. King Dork by Frank Portman. I think it's interesting if for no other reason than it's sort of a... It has a stream of consciousness feel to it that very much feels like the inside of a boy's head. Yeah, and it's funny. It's funny, and I think boys will like that. Going way back, and I think that it probably wasn't considered a young adult book back then, The Talisman by Stephen King and Peter Straub would be an interesting fantasy with a boy protagonist for people to give a shot to. Like I said, Marcello in the Real World by Francisco X. Stork. It's kind of a funny story by Ned Vizzini, which takes place in a mental hospital, and I think that's always interesting. And then the final one that I have sort of straddles the levels of taste. I mean, it's young adult in the sense that the characters are teenagers and things like that, but it's not young adult in the sense of content. So it has a very adult feel to it, and it's written in a very unusual way. And either you're going to love it, or you're not. I mean, it's Youth in Revolt by C.D. Payne, and it was made a movie a while back with Michael Cera and some other people, and it's just pretty. It's fun. It's crazy. It's very adolescent boy stuff and boy thoughts. So I have seen a lot of reviews online of it, and it's almost a gender split. Like, girls have a tendency to hate it because it is so geared towards how boys think sexually, and that's not necessarily something that girls want to hear because it does not fit into any sort of romantic notion. Anyway, but Youth in Revolt, it's funny. That's the big thing, though. I mean, it's very funny. I don't have anything on here that I would say is very current, like paranormal type stuff, particularly because I didn't want to piggyback on Andrew Smith's list, which I think he has a great list on there. And if you haven't watched his video, you should. I would say that I think The Demon's Covenant by Sarah Reese Brennan might be a good choice. I think that she can write a boy. So if you're looking to go that route. But, which I don't think that a ton of boys are, but, whatever. To each his own. I do like the idea. And Gone, that Michael Grant series, I think is a great series in that I feel like it's kind of both. I mean, the protagonist is male, but there's enough different POVs in it that I think anyone would enjoy that book. It also gives me it makes me remember reading The Stand for the first time, and I feel like that probably the entire series, if it were in one book, would be very reminiscent of The Stand because it's so massive, the idea of it and what's going on in the monsters and it's and the powers, and it just has a very Stephen King quality to it that I think people will get off on. Anyway, that's my boy video. Let's keep this conversation going because I think it's definitely interesting and. I mean, I have more to say on the subject, but because I feel like as a writer, try to do it as quick as I can. I feel like as a writer, I've not been writing towards my gender because that's not what sells in enough volume to pay my bills, which is kind of upsetting. So I'm going to try to focus on that in the second book in my series. So I'm hoping that. I can change that up a bit. And then I have another series planned that is almost entirely boy-driven. So we'll see. So many factors go into account. It's just it's hard. So it's gonna take the writers doing some things differently, the reviewers doing things differently, whatever.